Hello to all my queers and dears, and welcome to the October monthly video essay. This month, I've got a very exciting collaboration with the wonderful RWBY Zell Ryder, as we talk about Justice League X RWBY, Superheroes and Huntsmen Part 1, since Part 2 is coming out later this month. Zell is a valued member of my Discord community Adam plays a host, and I have been wanting to do a collab with them for quite some time, so I am really excited about this. Before we begin, it's important to note that while the Writers Guild has officially concluded their strike, with a huge victory I might add, community organizing as a united front is incredibly powerful, and never let anyone tell you otherwise. The Actors Guild is still currently on strike, and this video should not be taken as anything but the absolute support of their work. All praise in this video should be taken as reason for the artists to get the deal that they're asking for, not support for the studios. Do not support any studios during the strike. Back to the topic at hand, however, I have been a huge fan of RWBY since Volume 2. RWBY might just be my favorite story of all time, in part because of how thematically rich it is. I initially found Zell through their videos analyzing RWBY in the same way that I love to. I think their RWBY Is series is spectacular, and I highly recommend every episode. So to have them here to do just that is amazing. Welcome, Zell, and to those of you who are coming from Zell's channel, welcome to you as well. It's wonderful to have you here.
Hello everyone, and thanks Adam, it's great to be here.
I'll kick us off with a quick summation of the premise. This movie is a crossover between DC's Justice League and the RWBY series. The well-known DC Comics heroes find themselves in the unfamiliar, very un-Kansas-like world of Remnant, where soulless beasts called Grimm roam seeking to destroy all life, and are combated by huntresses and huntsmen, like Team RWBY and Team Juniper. The League also finds their ages have regressed, and their memories are spotty, as a result of whatever caused this clash of worlds. The Justice League, RWBY, and Juniper must join forces to find out who is responsible for all this chaos, and how they are seemingly influencing even the Grimm. Now that that's done, I'm gonna let Zell do a breakdown of the film, and then they and I will give our respective thoughts on it. Spoilers ahead.
Thanks for the intro Adam, and as promised to viewers, a brief breakdown. As the film begins, Clark Kent finds himself in the unfamiliar and very un-Kansas-like world of Remnant. He is quick to join Ruby Rose and Yang Jialong in a pitched forest battle against the Grimm, but the beasts are displaying an odd ability to absorb energy from dust and turn it back on their opponents. Meanwhile, Superman's own abilities seem to be somewhat limited compared to normal. As this is happening, Diana has a brief altercation and conversation with one Blake Belladonna on the Southern Islands. Bruce finds himself lost and forced to sneak into a party among the wealthy Elysian elite. Meanwhile, League members Vixen, Jessica, Flash, and Cyborg all find themselves in the halls of Beacon, the Kingdom of Vale's Huntsman Academy, basically college for monster hunters. The League also find that their ages have regressed and their memories are spotty as a result of whatever caused this clash of worlds. The Remnant locals like Blake and RWBY also find their own recollections confused, recalling the fall of Beacon even as they walk its halls as nearly the entire cast comes together, save for Weiss and Bruce who are trapped in Atlas. The Justice League as well as Team RWBY and the surviving members of Juniper must join forces to find out who is responsible for all this chaos and how they are seemingly influencing the Grimm. What follows is the classic Dungeons & Dragons decision of splitting the party, though without so much disaster this time. Yang, Blake and Diana set off for Atlas to collect Batman and Weiss. Jean and Jessica split off to seek out her Green Lantern ring. Meanwhile, everyone else under Clark and RWBY's leadership investigate the Grimm in the forests. As this is happening, Weiss and Bruce manage to determine the world they are inhabiting is a form of simulation. There is then a slew of battles, both internal and external, from an epic aerial bout to Jessica and Jean ripping through the veil and escaping a trap in most epic fashion.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power! Green Lantern light!
Eventually, everyone comes together to face down two kaiju Grimm and their hordes, uncovering the would-be puppet master in Kilgore and laying him low, allowing them to finally return to their respective worlds. Adam, go ahead and give your thoughts, then I'll follow up with mine.
In my opinion, I think a lot more of this movie worked than didn't. A lot of the pair-ups were fantastic choices, though I do hope Part 2 gives us some others. It does look like we've got more League members but less of the Remnant cast, so we'll see how the dynamics are handled. In Part 1 though, as someone with chronic anxiety myself, I found the story with Jessica and John particularly meaningful, as well as extremely well executed. I also really liked digging into Jean's remaining pain over Pyrrha, his genuine love for her that he discovered too late, and the remaining survivor's guilt he can't quite let go of. If this takes place somewhere during Volume 7, as the ending of Part 1 may be hinting at, I think it shows how even though he's much healthier mentally, he still has an obsessive side that comes out when old traumas are uncovered, something we see come to a head in Volume 9. I also really appreciated how Clark's confident leadership and commanding presence became the crux of RWBY's arc as someone still struggling with having any faith in her own leadership. That storyline also gives me more faith that despite common concerns in the aftermath of Volume 9, RWBY's arc concerning that struggle won't be moved on from so quickly. The other super strong dynamic was between Diana, Blake, and Yang, and wow was it queer. Both Blake and Yang, but especially Yang, immediately had crushes on Diana, and jealous Blake was fun to see, though I appreciate it wasn't dragged out too long. The idea of being a warrior and the struggles that come with that were very fascinating to see explored as well. In terms of what didn't work for me, the jealous Ren stuff didn't hit quite right. However, if this is Volume 7, it makes a bit more sense, as that was Ren at the height of his emotional repression, still unable to process his feelings or express them in a healthy way, including but not limited to his love for Nora. Zell has made a decent point in my Discord community about Cyborg and Nora having some compatibility, specifically in terms of personality and semblances, but even so, I found it a little bothersome. Not too much to detract from the overall quality of the film, though. In a similar way, my other main point of contention is the Weiss-Bruce subplot. It's not too detrimental to the overall film, but Bruce potentially staying on Remnant just so he could have powers didn't work for me. Zell again made a good point in my community that this is not the first time Bruce has ever been insecure about not having powers, even though it's definitely made more explicit here. However, I feel there were other ways to explore why he might want to stay that would have been stronger to explore. First one that I think might have been worth diving into was one of his first lines in the film. He briefly mentions his detest of the wealthy, and how they often embrace a comfortable bubble of privilege and ignorance, that they then get upset about anyone trying to puncture, while they make the world worse for everyone outside of their bubble. Perhaps there was something to explore about him being able to leave the playboy billionaire persona behind and start fresh, not even having to pretend to enjoy being the kind of person he so despises. The second thing that I would have preferred to explore instead was diving into his line about he didn't get to be a teenager the first time. The trauma he experienced losing his parents as a child often is depicted as a way of stunting his ability to mature, while also forcing him to deal with things that a child is unequipped to deal with. So there would have been an interesting angle to explore there. I did love seeing Weiss be good with computers. That makes sense considering she was previously heiress to what is essentially a tech company in many ways, but the main series has never had a reason to depict that skill before. And while I believe their dynamic was a little rushed, I did like what I saw of Weiss and Bruce, and I hope we see it evolve in Part 2. The fights were great, innovative, and fun, and using a lot of really cool abilities in cool ways. I never felt like any characters were treated like favorites in fights or story, which is always a concern in crossovers, so that was really nice. Zell, what were your thoughts?
Like Adam, I really enjoyed this film. Suffice to say, it answers all questions regarding time, age, and world shenanigans, and does a solid job of setting up Part 2 in the process. The action scenes are awesome and have a solid sense of spectacle with tons of great team combos. They all bounce off one another in fun and engaging ways as well for the most part. The various casts and worlds are neatly balanced, with no one side getting undue dominance, and the dynamic of the younger Justice League helps a lot in this. I like that the usual habits for crossovers to have one side dominate is also basically brought up in the movie and then subverted so neatly. Very satisfying. The designs, voices, music, and direction are all super solid. All in all, a fun romp with a couple of bumps, but that I'd have no trouble recommending to someone. Like Adam, I do have some more specific musings on the various team-ups and what they brought to the movie. RWBY and Yang find Clark in the woods and manage to strike up a nice rapport that has an almost sibling vibe to it. RWBY and Clark especially are basically a double act through the film, and they bounce off each other really well. Their shared burden of leadership was a smart thing to centre on, and honestly it's nice to see a Justice League that unambiguously has someone other than Batman leading it. Though, when it comes to RWBY's arc, I'm not sure if it was perfectly executed, both with Clark being able to come up with plans tied to the Remnantian skills, and RWBY's resolution in terms of her final plan being a little ill-defined, though I do see Adam's point regarding where RWBY is mentally when the story is set and how that informs her anxiety. Ultimately, the relationship and vibes were solid, but the story structure for the conclusion could have used some more work. This may be addressed in part 2. Now, as for Yang, she got split off from RWBY and Clark to form a triple act with Blake and Diana seeking out Batman and Weiss. This trio is near perfect. Blake and Diana had an easy rapport that did a good job conveying a great deal about the characters, and Yang meshed with it seamlessly. Their journey to Atlas is a high point, from action with aerial combat to its world building. Finally, we get to see Yang fly an airship. It was especially good on characterization, Blake and Diana specifically bonding about being raised as warriors while most of their comrades chose to become heroes later or weren't raised fighting a war. I liked the discussion regarding the distinction between warrior and hero. It was a great section for both characters, and Yang contributed subtly but smoothly. All in all, no complaints. I can see why people wanted Diana in a B polycule. Their dynamic is so smooth and fun and carried every scene they were in. But where there is smoothness, there must also be tension, and for this we have Cyborg, Vixen, and Flash possessed by Kilgore alongside Ren and Nora, plus RWBY and Clark trying to handle their clashing moods and personalities. This segment of story was probably the most challenging for the writers, as it's a lot of characters and much of it leaves them sort of low-key stuck in an ongoing action set piece to run out time until the film's conclusion. In essence, their early dynamic at Beacon worked well, but quickly grew messy during the mid-section. I did like some of the ideas or aspects, and some parts made sense, but others don't hang so neatly, as Adam already covered. For instance, it makes sense that Ren and Nora are a bit iffy. Emotionally they are at V7, but mentality-wise they're there in early V2. This means Ren is a bubbling mass of frustration, and Nora's got a lot of internal doubts that she can't vocalise. So them being touchy with one another, or others, can work, but it sort of came out very suddenly and with little context. Cyborg similarly was a bit of an odd duck, snapping at RWBY for seemingly no reason, and while he admitted it was chided him feeling useless, nothing had really been done to justify him feeling that way, not to this extent. He said he was having some trouble with the tech and the simulation, but he was still easily able to contribute to the fights. Basically, some more setup could have made it smoother, but as mentioned, I did like Cyborg and Nora's dynamic. They both have a lot of energy. Meanwhile, Vixen is a consistent presence throughout the film, but didn't exactly get anyone to bounce off of, save for Kilgore Flash. She came off well, but definitely feels like one of the less explored characters. Flash, having been possessed, got very little to do, but Kilgore proved to be an effective villain, very much one of those too clever by half villains that RWBY loves so much, smart enough to create a scenario to trap the Justice League, but not smart enough to avoid being trapped in it himself, as well as being too proud to admit that he's been betrayed. Him regressing the lead to younger years worked well to explain some of their moodiness and issues, even if one is likely left questioning what was stopping him from just wiping them out entirely. Still, he played his role well, even if his defeat, while grand looking, could have used a bit more context. Keeping on this critical course, Weiss and Batman didn't have a lot to do this film, though apparently Weiss is very good with computers. Fun! This doesn't bother me as much as it does others, as too many DC films just become Batman films with added characters. I also don't mind his thoughts regarding staying on Remnant, as he's been regressed into a nominal teenager and his memories of his adult life are heavily muted, thus he's very much back into being a troubled, powerless feeling teenager, suddenly granted everything he ever wanted. It works well to me, if perhaps it wasn't perfectly conveyed. I liked Adam's insights and feel those could have worked really well. Weiss's interest in him felt a lot weaker though, and there's not much to add to that, though her vibes with the team when reunited were fantastic. Finally, we cap off with pure positivity with the unexpected breakout team-up of the film, Jean and Jessica, two massive balls of anxiety, with the only difference being whether they're dying outside or inside. In all seriousness though, this was a good team-up, though the fact Jessica looks too pale irks me, especially as her design is otherwise fantastic. But moving on to character work, as Jessica has been regressed to a teen, she's naturally being a bit overwhelmed by her anxiety. This is magnified by the loss of her ring, leaving her feeling powerless and incredibly frustrated. We get some really interesting world building regarding the ring and its powers, which sets up the climax of the film. Meanwhile, this is Volume 7 Jean, where he's at his peak as far as mental health and overcoming his toxic traits go, so he's quick to offer support to Jessica without becoming an overbearing presence. Honestly, I could easily see one of his sisters as perhaps having struggled with anxiety, given he seems very clued in on how to help Jessica. Also, we got Pyrrha back for another round of Heartbreak. The cheat cradle also gives Bumblebee another parallel with Arcos and Renora. More pointedly, it makes it clear that Jean did love Pyrrha, which makes him being forced through her death and that extra spectre all the more heartbreaking. Jessica is also key to some of the film's best scenes. Firstly, where she's trapped in the void and eventually brings Jean in with her, helping them realise it's an illusion. It's just so unsettling. Secondly is when she awakens her semblance with the support of her oath. Epic scene, easily one of the best, if not the best in the whole film. Can we have Jessica around permanently? Come on DC, please! The final goodbye scene was a fun little way to wrap things up, very joyful and reflective of the bonds made throughout. Now I'll pass on to Adam to close us out. Thanks for having me on!
This film is probably a good 8 out of 10 for me. Would absolutely recommend. Some hiccups, but overall very strong. Not sure how it might come across to non-RWBY fans though, as while its canonicity is dubious, it does seem to slide into canon if one so desires, but that means there's a lot of references to canon events. Not those kinds of canon events. But if any of you in the audience have watched this film from a non-RWBY fan perspective, what were your thoughts? Or if you are a RWBY fan and have seen it, do you agree with any of the takes from me or Zell? Why or why not? Also, for the first time, animated RWBY stories are being dubbed for languages other than English and Japanese. So let us know whether what we discussed here holds up in any other languages, or if any of it is stronger or weaker in the translations. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments. I'm actually really excited for part 2, and if Zell is open to it, they and I might do a follow-up breakdown of it, and you will absolutely see me analyzing RWBY further in upcoming essays. I've been wanting to work with Zell officially for a long time now, and we actually decided to do this months ago, so I'm really glad we finally got this done. If you aren't subscribed to them, definitely do. They've certainly gotten me to think about a lot of topics in new ways. Thank you so much to everyone who has made it this far. Huge thanks to Zell Rider once again for doing this video with me, and of course, huge thanks as always to my friend and editor Bardock, who I couldn't do this without. Thanks to everyone in my incredible Discord community Adam plays a host, link in the description. With luck, I'm hoping to put out one video essay like this a month, so if you want to see the next one, make sure to subscribe to catch it when it comes out. Other than that, leave a like if you liked the video, dislike it if you didn't, say something smart, or give me feedback, or hell, just comment some gibberish for the algorithm. And I'll see you all soon.